We have covered a number of large-scale engineering projects on this channel, from churches to mosques to arenas. But what if I told you there was an even bigger project than all of them? A project promising a capacity of 9 million people, a project promising carbon neutrality, a project promising to be the first of its kind managed by AI, a project promising to sink $1.5 trillion, a project promising to use 20% of the world's steel, a project attempting to create a city on a line. The project is simply called The Line. And in making this video, I hope we don't cross that.
Hello there. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Todun, founder of Red City, a design engineering and construction company. We like to make videos that educate about people, history, places, and ideas that build the future. Before you continue this video, consider subscribing to our channel.
On this channel, we attempt to simply discuss and break down engineering projects that are currently being built, have been built, or will be built in the future, without attempting much criticism. Because despite some failings or even disagreements, most engineering projects stem from a place of innovation and solving problems. We are discussing Saudi Arabia's $1.5 trillion project called the Neom project. Neom project is an urban experiment being built by Saudi Arabia in the Tubok province. It is a futuristic urban idea launched in 2019 by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. To bring clarity on why this project actually exists, we may need to backpedal a bit. We have covered Saudi Arabia on this channel earlier when we talked about the Holy Mosque of Mecca, which you can watch right here. And you may ask why I'm mentioning this. If you watched that video, the first thing we mentioned is the millions of people the mosque draws into Saudi Arabia every year. This travel to Mecca generates millions in revenue for Saudi Arabia. While today Saudi Arabia is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, its wealth relies almost entirely on crude oil, and this is something the country is looking to diversify. See, Saudi Arabia is one of the few remaining countries in the world that is ruled by a monarch. Mohammed bin Salman, born 31 August 1985, is the heir apparent to the Saudi throne. After obtaining a law degree from King Saud University, he became advisor to his father in 2009. MBS has showed brilliance since his appointment as Crown Prince in 2017, introducing a series of social and economic reforms, which include curtailing the influence of Wahhabi religion's establishments by restricting the powers of religious people, improving women's rights by removing the ban on female drivers, and weakening male guardianship system in 2019. His Saudi Vision 2030 program aims to reduce the Saudi economy's reliance on oil through investment in other sectors such as technology and tourism, which has contributed to greater diversification of the economy. In developing his Saudi Vision 2030 plan, MBS looked to Dubai, a region which was just a small fishing settlement in the 18th century, before it took its crude oil reserves to ensure its development at tremendous scale over the last decade alone. Today, tourism contributes 20% of Dubai's GDP. The Crown Prince, understanding that Saudi has far more resources than the entire UAE, wanted the plan for 2030 to increase tourism to the region by developing these large-scale projects that would compete and even dwarf the accomplishments of similar regions. First announced on the 25th of April 2016, Saudi Vision 2030 was announced with these three main pillars: to make the country the heart of the Arab and Islamic worlds, to become a global investment powerhouse, and to transform the country's location into a hub connecting Afro-Eurasia. There are many projects in the program, which include Qidiya, Red Sea Global, Roshan, including Shedra and Marafi, Diriyah Gate, and many more. However, the most notable project in all of this is the Neom project, also known as the Line, for its experimental and to some people uninhabitable urban design. That said, let's highlight in detail the design plans, how this is going, and the critiques of its engineering and urban design. According to its website, the Neom is supposed to be 170 kilometers, a carbon-neutral city operated by AI, built in a currently arid area. It will have no roads, cars, nor emissions. It would run on 100% renewable energy, and 95% of the land will be preserved for nature. People's health and well-being will be prioritized over transportation and infrastructure, unlike traditional cities. The line is supposed to accommodate 9 million people and be built on a footprint of just 34 square kilometers. This would mean a reduced infrastructure footprint, creating never-before-seen efficiencies in city functions. The ideal climate all year round will ensure that residents can enjoy the surrounding nature. Residents will also have access to all daily essentials within a 5-minute walk, in addition to a high-speed rail with an end-to-end transit of just 20 minutes. And I say supposed to be, because the project has experienced growing pains and reports about an update scaling back the design. However, these reports have since been denied. With that said, based on the design, here is how engineering of the Neom is likely being executed. Foundation. As discussed in our previous videos, foundation is the first most crucial part of engineering a construction. Since the line is made of 2 vertical buildings and spans across a long length, you can easily assume that the bedrocks, segment by segment, will most likely differ. For this, geological engineers must survey the entire length of the construction and create plans for creating each segment's foundation. This may mean varying depths of foundation from segment to segment. They must also take into consideration any existing water beds, so segments do not shift over time. The foundation is expected to take years to complete, simply because of the sheer scale of the project. However, interestingly, due to the linear nature of the project, it can be built in segments, and since each of the twin builds has varying compartment apartments inside, a lot of creativity can be employed by its engineers in constructing the frame of each segment. Next is creating load calculations. We have spoken in detail about load calculations in our video recreating an AI project to real life, which you can watch here, and the same principles will likely be employed on the Neom project. However, I'll note that since the project is much more complex and complicated, structural load calculations can hardly rely on standards, and each load capacity must be uniquely calculated for the project. Next will be the finishing. Despite the twin buildings, ventilation, air filtering, and temperature conditioning are systems that should be designed for Neom City. Another aspect is the unique mirror framing, which might be one aspect we struggle to visualize, as this is not something that has been executed, but perhaps invisible brackets can be formed for mounting the mirrors, and we may be able to design invisible seams from brackets along the walls on the outer portion. While there isn't much that can be said for the technological inclusions in the line's design, such as AI, for now, here is how far the project has progressed. From these videos, it is obvious construction of the foundation has begun, and like we've mentioned already, we don't expect this to be done overnight. Now, whether this is the future of modern cities remains to be seen. But despite criticism, by developing futuristic concepts for new cities like Saudi, MBS has proven to have a daring vision of the future on par with Islamic geniuses like Al-Khwarizmi regarding creating sustainable cities. The vision for Saudi 2030 shows follow-through, creativity, and might be the next step Saudi Arabia has not seen since it sets out goals to diversify from oil and perhaps created a precedent where Saudi Arabia wins the 2030s and continues its line of prosperity. While MBS will likely continue to receive criticism for his actions, past, present, and even future, his vision shows a clear understanding of one important fact: oil and gas remains a finite resource. And for any economy which relies primarily on this, it must make efforts to sustain its growth and wealth in the future. My personal hope, however, is that urban design evolves past what it looks like today and that we can create ergonomic and sustainable cities that bring people closer to nature and develop human communities amidst innovation in technology and AI.
If you like this video, don't forget to like, turn on post notifications, and of course, thank you so much for getting us to 100 subscribers. You can now get us to 1,000 subscribers and be one of 5 people to win our $50 giveaway. Also, if you would like to support this channel so we can keep making videos like this, feel free to check out any of the links in our description and stay tuned for more videos. Thank you for watching!